Thanks for staying with us. Yesterday, we looked at the country's unemployment crisis that is plaguing the country. Given the latest announcement by the Department of Employment and Labour of the launch of a skills training and entrepreneurship program, we often hear about various programs to try and create what are called work opportunities. But are they sufficient to address the unemployment crisis in the country, especially given the list of existential crises that the country is currently facing? Let's speak to Bernstein, who is the Executive Director for Development Enterprise. And thank you so much for your time this evening. Reading your article, you argue that, for example, the governing party's election jobs promise are stunningly inadequate, while the number of employed people, for example, has grown since 2008. But this performance is below par. Let's start with unpacking that.
Well, I was really surprised when I read the ruling party's election manifesto. On the one hand, they say that jobs and employment is the absolute centerpiece of their manifesto, priority number one. But when you look at what they're offering, it's 3.5 million work opportunities over 5 years. Now, work opportunity is not a job. It's a temporary job. It's often part-time, and it's about 4 months long, and then you have to look for another job or another work opportunity. So what the ruling party is actually offering us is very little indeed, where they're offering over 5 years the equivalent of 300,000 full-time jobs. Now, this is in a context where a country like ours is facing a massive crisis, a catastrophic crisis of unemployment. There are about 11.7 million people unemployed in the country, and we're failing to create the jobs that we need. So this is a kind of totally inadequate offer to the electorate of what the ANC government will do over the next 5 years.
And I also suppose, when you think about, the jobs as well, and also these work opportunities and also some of these skills developments that they say they're putting in place, are they even going far enough, though, to even deal with some of the underlying challenges, for example, that the people who are getting these work opportunities or getting some of these, skills, upskilling, some of these skills initiatives becoming part of them, are they dealing with these underlying challenges that these individuals, particularly young people, would be facing?
Not at all. So it's important to understand that a work opportunity is generally a public works job paid for by the state. And most of the time, people don't get any skills at all. So this is not really helping people get a toehold into a growing economy. What we need is to free up the private sector to create as many jobs as possible. What we need is growth. We need much faster growth. If we could get 4% growth per annum, maybe we could get around 400,000 jobs every single year for young people coming into the workforce. But we're nowhere near that. Our skills training system is not working well. Most people agree the seaters are not doing what they should do. They're expensive and they don't perform, and they don't turn out people with the skills that companies need. And our TVETs, the other tertiary institution, is also not doing well. Expensive, not getting enough throughput. People they're not being skilled for the jobs that are available. And so South Africa's really struggling to deal with all of this. And if you look at the ruling party's election manifesto, it is totally inadequate.
And when you speak about even some of the initiatives that are being put in there, yesterday I was speaking to a young person who was saying that, for her, like you are saying this evening, the seaters are simply not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and there might need to be an audit perhaps to see if in fact they're working as effectively as they should. Would you agree that we need possibly a stocktake when it comes to these seaters and how they're working to try and assist, as government is now also looking to do again?
There's been a lot of work done on the seaters. Government's done work, we've done work, the private sector's done work. We don't need a stock taking. We know they are failing. We either need to close them down and get a different kind of approach to skills training, which is probably the right approach, but we don't need a stock taking. We need to act quickly to start delivering effective skills training institutions to people coming out of our schools, many of which are themselves very weak indeed. So the country is in serious crisis on a number of fronts relating to employment, young people, education and skills. And you don't get any sense of that at all from this election manifesto.
And we haven't even begun to even unpack the issue of the skills mismatch. But let's even talk about then the appetite for this acceleration. Do you think it's there?
Well, the country's in an election mode. Voters must decide who they want to vote for the next government. So I think everybody's concentrating on vote getting, and we need to see who is elected as the next government, and hopefully they will do a much better job when it comes to growth and to skills and basic education for South African citizens.
And it's one thing, and to talk about these jobs and the plans to create them. It's another to even speak about, you touched on it a little bit, to create room and even places for these young people to then be employed as well. So how critical are the SMEs when it comes to this conversation? Because we often hear about them, but also they cry about a lack of support in this particular regard. But government continues to say they're the backbone of the economy.
Well, there are all sorts of problems that face emerging small businesses and growing small businesses. We have a very uncompetitive economy. The environment in which to do business is expensive and far too many things aren't working. From the terrible crime rate, the corruption mafia or construction mafia, to the ports, to the logistics. Our roads are declining, so people can't get goods to market. All these things hold back small enterprises. So we should stop talking so much and pretend we really care about small firms. It's time to elect a government that actually has a plan to do something different from what we've been doing up until now to help get South Africa growing again. If we have a growing economy, there'll be lots of space for new firms, for small firms to grow, for all kinds of firms, big and small, and there is a relationship between the two. So I think it's time the country was much more determined about economic growth and how we're going to turn the tide on nearly 15 years of very mediocre, almost stagnant growth of 1% over that period every year.
And appreciate your time this evening. That was Bernstein, who is the Executive Director for Development Enterprise.